On today's show, the Rockets choked, but the Cavs somehow choked even worse. The wild ending between the Rockets and Cavs as Houston escapes with the win. Fred VanVleet with some huge shots late. Alperen Sengun clutch down the stretch. Ime Thompson putting the clamps on Donovan Mitchell, and the huge impact from the Houston Rockets bench. It's all coming up right here at Locked On Rockets.
This is Mission Control, Houston.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
An emotional roller coaster, to say the least, as the Houston Rockets escape with a 109-108 win against the Cleveland Cavaliers. What's up, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. As always, I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, native Houstonian and credentialed media member. I'm also the host of Locked On NBA Thursdays. Be sure to follow along wherever you listen to your podcasts or on YouTube. Just search Locked On Rockets, where the best way you can help us grow our show is to listen every single day on a podcast platform of your choosing. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Drop us a comment while you are there. Tell me your emotions and the thoughts running through your head from the tail end and the ending of this Rockets game against the Cavs. And while you are there, you know the drill. The Rockets get a win, so
release the hounds.
Go tell our friends over at Locked On Cavs that Locked On Rockets sent you on by to rub it in their face. And of course, also subscribe to our daily Locked On Rockets newsletter. Would sincerely appreciate that. Now, today's episode is sponsored by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off of your first purchase. And as always, thanks so much for making Locked On Rockets part of your day every single day, whether it's on your way to work, on your lunch break, in the gym. Thank you so much for being an everydayer. And joining us now to talk about this absolutely insane win for your Houston Rockets is none other than your weekly co-host, NBA draft enthusiast, and diehard Houston Rockets fan, Madison Moore, who you can track down on Twitter at MadmanLeaks. Rockets with the 109-108 win against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And Madison, I'm still reeling from the emotional roller coaster that was the end of this game, with the Rockets going on, getting the scoring drought that they went on, scoreless for almost 7 straight minutes in the fourth quarter. And then Fred with the back-to-back threes to bring them back. And the clutch buckets from Alperen Sengun late. And then just, oh my God, I'm melting. I'm still reeling. This was one of the most insane games that I've ever personally witnessed. How are you feeling? Talk to me.
I'm feeling grateful, man. I feel the basketball gods are finally paying us our due for the Eric Gordon 3-point fouls and all the bogus losses we had in the Silas era. We are due, Rockets fan. This is another one of those the Rockets finally come up on the right side of luck. And I think we got to give the Rockets credit, man. They battled all game. And I think we're going to go through play-by-play. Jackson go through play-by-play. But this was an incredible finish to the game and one of the most unlikely finishes I've ever seen to a game. So just happy the Rockets pulled it out against the best team right now in the entire league. So good stuff from the Rockets.
Look, absolutely, right? Like, credit to the Rockets for battling in this game, for not rolling over when the Cavalanche started there in the fourth quarter. Cavs go on a 19-0 run, and it looked like it was going to be game over. Like, the Cavs you couldn't stop them offensively. Rockets couldn't get anything going on the offensive end. And then Fred hit a couple of back-to-back triples to give the Rockets, to bring the Rockets back into it. Ime Thompson got to the free throw line, hit a free throw there. So the Rockets went on their own little 7-0 run. Then Dillon Brooks and Jalen Green have a little miscommunication on the perimeter. Darius Garland gets a wide open 3-pointer, makes it 107-105. And then we're trailing. We're going through the recap here because the end of this game was just absolutely insane. You get a Fred VanVleet, Alperen Sengun pick and roll where Fred snakes it beautifully, gets into the, deep into the paint, lobs the ball right over the top. Sengun catches it, and he's got Jared Allen inside the rim, puts the ball up. And then Sengun shoves Allen after the play, and they had to review it to see if that was going to be a tech. And thank goodness it was nothing. Credit to the refs in that situation for not calling that a technical, right? It was just too big. They've been battling all game. And then Jalen Green gets a huge defensive stop on Darius Garland. Ime Thompson goes streaking the other direction, gets fouled by Donovan Mitchell in transition, which the Cavs actually challenge and win the call on the challenge, which you think is like, honestly, low-key, that might have been the best case scenario for the Rockets rather than sending Ime Thompson to the free throw line. You get to actually run a play. They ran a play. Sengun had a great look at it and missed it. Then Ime Thompson D's up Donovan Mitchell, forces him into a tough step back. And then below the basket, the battle of the bigs, it's been going on all night, a super physical game. And Sengun boxes out Jarrett Allen beautifully. Allen had no choice. He was grabbing him, holding him, trying to do anything he could to get his hands on that rebound. Couldn't do it. Cavs challenge it again. And this challenge does not go through, so Sengun goes to the free throw line. We know Shingun's free throw struggles. We know he's had issues at the line. Ices 2 huge free throws. Credit to Sengun for rising to the occasion, for knocking down those 2 free throws. Rockets leading 109-107 with 4.5 seconds left. And then this is where the roller coaster starts. This is unbelievable, man. To have Tari, Eason, dude, the subs, you get your all defense lineup in there, and then to have Darius Garland pull up from 3 and Tari Eason closes out way too hard, undercuts him, and literally the worst case scenario for the Rockets, a flagrant foul on a 3-point shooter when you were up 2 with a handful of seconds remaining. I thought it was game over, Madison. Everybody thought it was game over. Yeah. Like, if you go look at like the win probability from this game, I guarantee you from that moment that call was made, the win probability for the Cavs was like 99.9999%, because you sent probably a 90% free.
Yeah, probably 90.8.
You sent a 90% free throw shooter to the free throw line for 3 free throws, and they kept possession of the basketball. And then, against all odds, the basketball god said, you know what? Here you go. He missed not 1, but 2 of the 3 free throws, coming up just short. And we gotta give a really special shout out here to none other than the voice of the Houston Rockets, Craig Ackerman. This team leads the NBA in free throw defense, and Ackerman was in his bag in this game. Ackerman held Darius Garland to just 3 of 8 from the free throw line, including those 2 misses at the end of regular. My goodness, he deserves the game ball from this. There's no other way about it. Craig Ackerman deserves the game ball from this game.
Yeah, Craig definitely. Hold my beer. What you said? He has a 90%. Hold my beer. He's been off all game, but I'm gonna pump him up as soon as he steps into the line. But incredible win from the Rockets tonight. I mean, to me, what sticks out about this win is honestly how good the Rockets starters defense had kind of got into a rhythm and got a couple stops in a row. And there was a key decision by Ime. That's what I was trying to say, substitutions. And this is what it's kind of that rings bright to me. And Ime does this in a lot of situations where he does situational subs, and he situationally subs in his best defenders, right? But when you do that type of stuff, you run the risk of ruining the rhythm of a game. These guys have been sitting on the bench the whole fourth quarter. Their switches may not be as sharp. They may not be as in tune to the speed of the game. You know what I mean? And you putting them in cold, they're cold coming off the bench, and they have to make the biggest play. And if you're a half second late, like Tari was on that switch, he can overcorrect by trying to get out a good contest. And that's what we seen in the flagrant with the flagrant at the end. He was just a half second late on the confusion of that switch. And that type of stuff can happen when you've been on the bench for a while. And it's just, you don't have any time to adjust to that. I thought that was something that was interesting to me, because although I do agree with Ime's situational substitutions, I didn't agree with it at this time and point in the game, not only for Tari, but also for Jae'Sean Tate. I thought the Rockets starters had been playing really good defense and had gotten 2 previous stops, one at the hands of Jalen Green, who's probably the weakest defender on the floor, made an incredible play. And also Sengun on the boards, really making a huge play to get those free throws. So I kind of, Tari's a young player, and honestly, he has less than 2 years worth of games under his hand. He can sometimes, although he's an excellent defender, he still has mistakes at times, especially in high pressure situations. He had a couple fouls on 3-point shooters in that Golden State game. He's still ironing those things out. Is glad that the Rockets trust him to be on the floor, but he has to get to the film and pay more attention to those types of things so he doesn't make those mistakes moving forward.
One more piece of credit to give out, because Ime Thompson had back-to-back great contests on Donovan Mitchell, because not only did he have the contest on the first step back that led to the Alperen Sengun box out and the free throws, but he also had the contest on the potential game winner, the inbound, the final play of the game for the Cavs, the turnaround from the left corner for Donovan Mitchell, and just back, again, fantastic defense from Ime Thompson. Rockets were able to somehow pull out this game. Look, Rockets choked. Cavs choked harder. That's the story of this game. Is that's exactly what happened. Shout out to Craig Ackerman. Shout out to the Rockets for the #1 free throw defense in the entire association, holding a 90% free throw shooter to just 3 of 8 at the free throw line. Coming up, we got to talk about the insane impact from the Houston Rockets bench in this game, as well as couple games in a row of some serious struggles for Jalen Green. How worried should we be? We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by Talkspace. Look, therapy is a total game changer. It can help manage stress, improve sleep, and communicate more effectively. But finding the right therapist and fitting sessions into a busy schedule can be kind of a challenge. That's where Talkspace comes in. Talkspace, the leading virtual therapy provider, makes getting the help you need easy, accessible, and affordable. With Talkspace, signing up is so simple. You can match with a licensed therapist who fits your needs, usually within 48 hours, and it's convenient. You can have sessions from the comfort of your home and even message your therapist between appointments. Plus, Talkspace is covered by many insurance plans, and for most insured members, there's a $0 copay. It's never been easier to prioritize your mental health. As a listener of this podcast, you'll get $80 off of your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com/LockedOnNBA and enter promo code SPACE80. To match with a licensed therapist today, go to Talkspace.com/LockedOnNBA and enter promo code SPACE80 to get $80 off of your first month and show your support for our show. That's Talkspace.com/LockedOnNBA, promo code SPACE80. And continuing on here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast, home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. Man, Madison, this game was like truly kind of a game of runs, and it felt like the entire flow of this game shifted, or the entire flow and fabric of this game shifted the moment the Rockets were able to get a few of their key bench guys in, because it didn't feel like the starters had the right energy from the jump. But that moment, in the first quarter, once it was Fred, Dillon, and then you had Cam, Tari, and Adams in there, that lineup was wrecking shop. They were fantastic together. Cam Whitmore reeled off like a super quick 10 points in the first quarter. He was electric. Tari got it going early. Adams was doing what he does, really being aggressive on the boards, and really like that trio, and then also extending that to Jae'Sean Tate, later in the game once he was getting subbed in. It really felt like all 4 of the bench guys had their fingerprints all over this game. And I want to give some credit to Ime Udoka for going with Tate in this game instead of Aaron Holiday, because I really felt like going with Aaron Holiday in a couple of these past Rockets losses, the one against the Sacramento Kings, the one against the Pistons on MLK Day, like I felt like Holiday has struggled at times with his size, and I feel like other teams have exploited that, and he hasn't been as precise on defense, I guess. And Tate just, yes, he is a little undersized for a wing, but he doesn't play at like he's 6'4". He plays a lot bigger than that, especially on the glass, especially doing some of the dirty work and stuff. And it just felt like the Rockets bench was clicking on all cylinders in this game, in a game where some of the starters really didn't have it, with Jalen struggling, with DB having almost a no-show and some mistakes defensively.
Yeah, he was... Jesus.
DB was bad.
DB was really bad. He's stacking up a lot of bad games.
We'll talk about the DB concerns with the Jalen concerns a little later, but
no, that's fine. But yeah, it really starts in the defensive end, right? You making miss shots as a team, but this team really thrives. Their offense thrives and feeds on the defensive end, turning guys over and getting out in transition. And that's exactly what Tari, Eason, and Cam Whitmore did in this game, especially in that first quarter and in the first half. Those guys injected some energy into the lineup. They got out. They got some steals. They closed out hard on shooters. Some of it could be a little wild. They really turned the game into kind of this wild up and down rat chase. But it works for them. It really works for them. It gets them into rhythm. They did a lot of their damage in the first half, getting the guys into the game. Getting the team back into the game and actually propelling us to have the lead. And that was just excellent from Cam. Great injection of energy from Cam and Tari. Tari kind of led us with the defense. They got out in transition and really ran hard. And then Steven Adams, like you said, in the second half, and specifically that fourth quarter, Steven Adams remains a force on the boards. Just the ultimate, cleanup guy. He got about 3 or 4 offensive fouls in the fourth quarter, really, putting some pressure on the defense, keeping these possessions alive, because the lineup that started that fourth quarter did not have play initiators. So those extra possessions to extend the time until the starters could get back in the game where they have initiators to get it's huge for the Rockets. And so really this win is really won by the bench players, because our starters outside of Fred VanVleet and Alperen Sengun really didn't play that well, right? And so we got to give a huge kudos for those guys. Bench mob seems to be back. Even with Ime starting right now, we still have enough on our bench to have a real bench mob that gives us a change of pace and inject some energy into this team. And with Jalen struggling tonight, with DB struggling tonight, the team really need that, and they don't win this game without Cam, Adams, and Tari.
35 points off the bench for the Houston Rockets to 33 points off the bench for the Cavs. And look, the Cavs are a deep team, and they weren't even, it kind of buried the lead on this, but the Cavs were not even fully healthy, right? They still don't have Karis LeVert. They're missing Isaac Okoro. They're missing Evan Mobley. Obviously, he's a huge piece of what they're doing this season. So, and look, the Rockets are still missing Jabari Smith Jr. He's been an integral part of their success so far this season. So, you don't want to, neither of these teams are truly fully healthy at this point. But loved everything that we saw out of all the bench guys. It really felt like they were instrumental in this one. Fred said it after the game. He was like, we don't win this game without them, right? They came in and they really saved our butts. I think one of the filthiest, nastiest plays of the game was that Jae'Sean Tate to Cam Whitmore lob in transition, where he no-looked the pass and flung it up to Cam, and then Cam went up there, caught it with one hand, and just yammed it home. My God, one of the best lobs. One of the best lobs of this entire season, hands down. And look, we got to. You talk about the good with the bad, right? With that unit, especially because they do play a little helter skelter at times, right? They play. I think chaotic is probably the best word, and that chaos tends to work well. Tends to work well for this team, but there is some bad in there, right? Like, unfortunately, and we got to talk about it. Like Tari Eason, man, that foul, you mentioned it, talked about it a little bit in segment 1, but that foul on Darius Garland, when you're up 2, when you're basically no threes, no fouls, whatever, you're just trying to D up for a good possession. That was literally one of the worst, most boneheaded mistakes you could make in that position. And the good news is, hopefully it's a learning experience, right? The Rockets can look at it, Tari will look at it and go back, and hopefully we don't see him make a mistake like that again. But I feel like there has been mistakes like that in Tari's past where you're like, man, what are you doing? And maybe some of that has DeMar.
Right. He had one on DeMar at the free throw line in a crucial situation, and he hit it. It was an and one, and it's just it's like those types of things. He just can't, hold himself back on some of those plays. But I think it's really, I'm glad we got it out. But like you said, it's a learning situation, and I think this one is going to ring loud for him.
Is because he's an all gas, no breaks kind of defender, right? Yeah. He's leaving it all out there on the court every time he's out there, and you love that. You love that energy, and that energy is amazing 99.9% of the time. But then in those crucial moments, right, where you need to reel it back in just a little bit, right, instead of playing it, 105 miles an hour, right, you need to reel it back into 95, just so that you're a little bit more measured in how you're closing out and how you're contesting shots and how physical you are being. And this was a physical game, man. The refs let a lot lot of stuff go in this game, which honestly always plays into the favor of the Rockets. They are one of, if not maybe the most physical team in the entire NBA. So when the refs are letting that contact go, when they're letting the guys just play out there, it almost always works out in the favor of the Houston Rockets. We got to talk about Fred, though, because in addition to the bench, right, this game looked like it was going to be over when the Cavs went on their insane run. Talking, again, 7 straight minutes of scoreless basketball for the Rockets before Fred finally broke the seal and hit a huge three-pointer, and then immediately followed that up with another huge three-pointer. Like, Fred, you know, the Steady Freddy nickname is absolutely so true, right? For him to be able to get that in those moments to tie the game back up at 104 when it really felt like Cavs had a 6-point lead. It felt like it was only, you know, just under 3 minutes left to go, or a little over 3 minutes. It really felt like it was going to be game over. And for Fred to step up and knock down those 2 huge shots on a night where Sengun had his fair share of struggles on the interior at times, trying to get himself going. And then Jalen Green did not have it going on the perimeter whatsoever. Those are just big time shots from Fred. And he had 6 turnovers, and he's the guy you expect to take care of the basketball, but he also carried the offense, right? So yeah, he had the 6 turnovers, but he was also the only guy that could really consistently put the ball in the basket for this Rockets team. 26 points, 8 of 15 shooting, and 7 of 12 from downtown. Huge game from Fred. This game reminds me a lot of the win against the Thunder earlier this season, where like Fred went off in that game too, 38 points. And when Fred has it going, he plays like an all-star caliber guy, and he played like an all-star in this game. Absolutely.
Yeah, man, we got to give Fred his kudos, man. Once again, it's almost like Jalen and Fred take turns having the hot ball. Like when Fred is really going, Jalen's off, and when Jalen's really going, Fred is not as on. But it was great to see Fred pick up the slack where Jalen was struggling today. I would have liked to see him get a little bit more initiation reps. We didn't really even learn that Fred was on until like the third quarter. We really oh no, Fred really has it going. We figured it out in the third quarter, and then he took over the offense from there, which I thought actually served Jalen a lot better this game. We'll talk about Jalen later, but Fred I thought was excellent today. Another caution for Rockets fans who want to move on from guys so quickly. You still need that veteran steady presence, and he gives us another injection of offense when other guys don't have it going. And Fred is also clutch as hell, man. Like this dude he's hit so many game winners in the finals, Mike. You know what I mean? That you can't teach that love, that cojones factor type deal that Fred has. And once again, another excellent game. We don't win this game without Fred. He broke the seal on the offense in the fourth quarter, and that's when the Rockets offense got going again, and which it was barely enough to get us a win tonight.
Coming up, we got to talk about Jalen Green's performance, a team worst -17. A couple of back-to-back concerning performances from Jalen. How worried should we be? We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Look, I absolutely love going to live events. It's the best, whether it's a basketball game or a concert or the theater or a comedy club. One of my favorite memories was going to a concert last year. I bought the tickets on Game Time, and honestly, attending the concert, it was exciting. The experience was really unforgettable. Now Game Time's made it even easier to get tickets for your favorite events with their new feature, Game Time Picks. The feature filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of different ticketing offers. Was looking for some Rockets tickets recently for a game a little bit later on this season. And with Game Time, I was able to find some pretty solid deals, some really great deals, actually. And you can even see the view from your seat before you bought the tickets. Not that I really need that, only because I know Toyota Center like the back of my hand. But if it's not a venue that you're familiar with, it's a totally amazing feature. Also, the super deal, really impressive, offers great seats at unbeatable prices. Plus, with the app's all-in pricing, shows you the total cost up front. They're fully transparent, so you don't have any of those hidden fees, those surprise fees at checkout. So take the guesswork out of buying your tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. And final segment here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. Really quickly, before we get to Jalen, I just want to give, we've talked about a couple times and gave him his credit for the huge free throws, knocking them both down, Alperen Sengun at the charity stripe, but just to see him battling all night long, right, with one of the premier defensive bigs in the NBA and Jarrett Allen. Yes, the Cavs aren't at full strength because they don't also have Evan Mobley out there. That's what makes their defense so special, is having those two bigs play in tandem with one another. But Jarrett Allen by himself is still a monster in this game. 17 points, 13 rebounds, 7 of 11 shooting. And Alp absolutely held his own and showed up big when it mattered most, right? Had the little baby hook over Jarrett Allen late that Fred VanVleet helped him set up, knocked down the 2 huge free throws, had the box out, the crucial possession at the end, right? Just some huge plays from Alperen Sengun down the stretch of this game. 18 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, had a block, had a few turnovers, but again, the turnovers were like a team-wide issue for the Rockets. They just could not take care of the basketball in this game on 7 of 13 shooting. Yeah. So just wanted to give Alp some credit before we move on to talking about the struggles for Jalen Green in this one. And it really felt like, man, like so much of Jalen's game seems like screams just confidence to me. And there just was a point in this game where like I felt that Jalen didn't have confidence in whatever he was doing on the floor. Like it very much felt like he was in his own head after the rough start. He wound up knocking down a couple threes. He had the huge stop on Garland, and so he had a couple good spots in the game, but this is now 2 straight games in a row of really bad games, and he's been playing lights out in the month of January, right? So and really even extending further back than that, right? His play kind of since the end of since post Thanksgiving has been a lot better. So I think he's earned like some cachet, right? He's earned maybe some bad games here and there. But one thing we've talked about is eliminating the really bad games, right? And this one felt like a really bad game against the best team in the NBA. 10 points on 4 of 16 to go with a handful of turnovers. That's just not going to cut it. On top of that, the Rockets were getting absolutely killed on these long rebounds, and that is a problem for the perimeter players, right? That's something where Fred needed to step up and grab more boards on the perimeter. He only had 3. Jalen only had 2 rebounds, and he's one of the most athletic guys on the floor, so there's no excuse. He should be getting after the boards, especially those long rebounds. And then Dillon Brooks, 0 rebounds. That's unacceptable. That can't happen.
Bro, it's all the time. Dillon Brooks is historically a poor rebounder, and sometimes he's not even getting a body on guys. Like some of these long rebounds, you can see Jalen in there fighting, double boxing out on guys, and it's just an errant. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But yeah, Dillon just, when Dillon is off, his defense is taking a step back. But before we get to Dillon, let's talk about Jalen. Okay, because Jalen,
like, how concerned should we be?
I mean, for 2 games, we can't be too concerned, Matt, right?
I think he's earned the benefit of the doubt, right? For 2 games, it's been a rough 2 games, but no, there shouldn't be any like crazy overreaction or whatever. But I think it still warrants discussion is the thing. Like, what feels different these last 2 games as opposed to previously?
To me, it's the turnovers. It's the amount of initiation in the first quarter. I think first and foremost, it seemed like Jalen came out as the point guard in this game, which has, to me, ran a lot different for the whole entire stretch of Jalen's play, where Freddie initiates, and really the goal is to get Sengun the ball in the beginnings of this game, to get him going and then Jalen gets out in transition and as a catch and shoot guy and kind of eases his way into the game. And then at the 3-minute mark, then Jalen takes over as the initiator as he's already kind of got warmed up to the pace of the game. I feel like in this game, he came out, he got a really good open midi, and he knocked it down. And then he just, kind of got focused in getting his own shot, when I think he didn't let the game come to him as naturally. And number 2, too many missed layups. And this just wasn't on Jalen tonight. This was on Tari. This was on Ime. This was on a lot of the guys tonight. They really left a lot of layups on the board, including Jalen in that first quarter, missing some really easy layups that he should have made. There was one play where he's just, I don't know if you're afraid of what is the center's name? I'm sorry, I'm blanking.
Jarrett Allen.
Jared Allen, but you need to dunk that. You're an athletic player. We've seen you dunk on these guys before. You had the runway. You have to dunk those balls because if you don't, they're going to make it too difficult as a layup, and you have the athleticism to do that. I think if Jalen finishes with a little bit more cachet, he either gets to the line or he gets a dunk that gets his energy flowing, right? It's those type of things. Jalen is such a rhythm player. He has to see the ball going through the net.
Didn't attempt a single free throw in this game.
Yes, and I was, and that's the issue. I mean, they were calling it tight, right? But Jalen, you still have to be able to pick your spots. You still have to be able to drive. Guys were packing the paint on the help and read the help defender. To me, I'm more concerned about the decision making rather than the actual making of shots, because shots will go in and they'll go out. But are you making the right decisions? Are you not turning the ball over? And I thought Jalen had some questionable turnovers tonight, and they were not good. You know, they were pretty poor.
What stood out was him pre-planning what he was going to do, right? Rather than reading and react. Like, he had one drive in transition where he had made up his mind that he was going to drive in and pass to Sengun. Like, the whole way through, you could tell it was a transition drive, and then he drove kind of towards the right baseline, like cut through the paint, and then he tried like an over-the-shoulder like pass to Sengun, and the Cavs had it sniffed out the whole way. And it was one of those where it was like, I kind of saw it happen in real time. I was like, he's gonna drive. He thinks he's got Sengun wide open. He's telegraphed, like he knows where he's trying to pass this ball, but they know, like, he's telegraphing, and so. He had a couple of those, right? And then he had like there was one that he had when, like, also credit to the Cavs defense, who, you know, again, held the Rockets scoreless for about 7 minutes there. The zone defense had the Rockets like so lost. Now, a big part of that was not executing properly against the zone. Even though the Rockets were shooting the basketball well in this game, they shot 44.1% from downtown. They weren't executing well against the zone, and that happened all throughout the game. Like, that's what led to so many of these turnovers. Again, the Rockets in this game had 22 turnovers to the tune of 33 Cavs points. Like, normally that's one of the Rockets' win conditions. Normally they do a great job taking care of the basketball, and that's one of the areas where they do oftentimes way better than other teams, is just taking care of the ball. And they had so many turnovers because they just could not figure out how to properly attack that zone defense by Cleveland.
Yeah, and they have the ultimate zone buster in Alperen Sengun, and I just think it's a lack of playing through Sengun in those situations. And I thought when Sengun is so effective at that free throw line and down, because he can actually shoot from that area, and so it turns him into this pseudo driver post player and a guy who can make plays out of that position. And I really just wanted the Rockets to kind of spam that. They got to it a little bit down the stretch, which got them some good looks, but the Rockets need to do that more often, is play through Sengun in the middle. I just think Steven Adams kind of stole some of Sengun's minutes because of how well he was playing, but I think the Rockets offense ultimately suffered for it. But I definitely agree. Like, to me, Jalen has to make his layups. You know what I mean? Like, there was a play in the fourth quarter, I believe. It was either the third or the fourth, where he uses his change of pace and lightning speed, Euro steps past Jared Allen, and just completely whiffs the layup. Like, just completely like overshoots the layup. And it's just like he beat everybody on the court, right? But those types of things is why you have a 4 of 16 night. If he makes 3 of those makeable layups, 3 or 4, he missed the alley hoop. There was an alley hoop in the first quarter where he just completely missed the layup. Like, those things count. They, like, you know what I mean? And they disrupt his rhythm. Now he's in his head. You can see Jalen grabbing his hair. You know, he's out of rhythm. He's out of sync. And those are the type of things that Jalen has to learn. He has to learn how to get himself back into rhythm. If he wants to continue these stretches, he has to understand where his spots are to keep himself in rhythm. And so that's where I think we'll give him some more time. He's still a young player, still learning, and he's lessening these negative stretches. So we like to see Jalen kind of, you know, nip this negative stretch in the bud and get back to some of this great basketball he's been playing all of January.
And the good news is, right, he gets a chance to do it very next game against the exact same team, right? So that's always, I love these little kind of, you know, home and home series or whatever, mid-season, where you play the same team twice in a row. It's like a little mini playoff series. You get to go back, look at, you know, things from the previous game, make some adjustments, all that good stuff. So hopefully we see him, you know, with a good bounce back game next time out in Cleveland against this exact same team. Dillon Brooks, man. This is... It's been rough for DB. It's been a rough stretch for Dillon Brooks. And we've had talks about, man, what are the Rockets going to do when Jabari's back healthy? How are you going to take a Min Thompson out of the lineup? If DB keeps up his current level of play, there is no question in my mind that you would bring Jabari Smith Jr. back and put him in the starting lineup. You keep him in there and you move Brooks to the bench. I don't know if Ime would have the stones to do that, and I don't know how well that Dillon Brooks would receive that type of a demotion. But if the struggles continue, I feel like you kind of have to do it.
Yeah, I'm kind of all in on this. I think Dillon Brooks defensively is a shell of himself. I often think he's out there performing antics on the defensive end that they're supposed to annoy the players that he's playing, the elite guards that he's playing. But you have to get away with them, Dillon. You have to get away with those so it can be annoying when you're not getting calls. But he's too abrasive, too aggressive with them, and they're often easy foul calls. He's not providing enough on the boards. He's not boxing out, getting dirty enough in there, and now that, this has actually been happening all year, but Dillon has been lights out as a shooter. And he's also, when Jalen has been off, he's been the wing scorer that we need, creating buckets at the end of shot clocks. And those things have been going down, but they're no longer going down. And what we're seeing right now from Dillon Brooks is not a very good player right now. And we need him to turn those things around because we need his veteran leadership, because what he does is he sets a tone. But right now, the antics are just too much. It's too much antics without enough product, without enough actualized, excellent plus defense. And if that stuff continues, he's the clear candidate to move to the bench when Jabari comes back, because Jabari offers rebounding. Jabari offers rim protection. You know what I mean? And can you imagine how improved that lineup would be with Ime Thompson, Jabari Smith, and Alperen Sengun as rebounding? We add another plus rebounder to this mix. You know what I mean? And so, and when you think about that, and Jabari Smith's a great three-point shooter. So we'll still have the three-point shooting. We'll still have the spacing. We won't have a spacing issue there. You know what I mean? And so that's looking like the future of the moving forward of the starting lineup. But we just need Dillon to get it together. I understand you're in a shooting slump, but you gotta be better.
I will say one thing that I want to see potentially adjust defensively from Udoka and company is, I don't think Dillon is great at defending guards. I really don't. He's not, like, he gets smoked a lot when he's guarding smaller, faster players. I think he's best served guarding bigger, stronger guys. And there are so many possessions where, the Rockets do switch a majority of their actions, but I'd still like to see things drawn up to where DB's primary assignment is the opposing, like, wing or big or whatever. And they do that a lot, right? I mean, Dillon Brooks guards the opposing big sometimes, and Sengun is guarding a wing because it just works out better for them in their pick and roll defense. And, that way they don't have to pre-switch certain actions. And I just think that the more that the Rockets can get away from DB having to guard quick twitch guards on the perimeter, the better it's going to be for him defensively, because he gets to really lean into what he is still really good at, which is muscling up, bodying up, making guys uncomfortable. But when he's out there kind of dancing around on the perimeter, you're right, it feels like antics more than it does actually feel like good defense at this point.
Just I'm sorry to make that point about the guards. The antics come because he doesn't have the foot speed anymore, and when you don't have foot speed, you use your physicality to kind of blunt someone else's foot speed. But Dillon is like throwing shoulders into guys. That is the antics, and he does it. It's not necessary, and that's what I'm talking about. That's a perfect example of these elbows, these shoulders that he's throwing that are honestly just obvious, you know what I mean, to the naked eye, and it's proven for really bad defense. But sorry,
hopefully, look, he needs to turn it around, because and look, to his credit, right? No sweeping or trying not to make any sweeping overreactionary judgments here. He's been one of, if not maybe like top 2, top 3 consistent player for the Rockets all the way up to kind of this January stretch where he's really struggled since the calendar year kind of rolled over to 2025. So whatever's going on, hopefully he can turn it back, get back to some of the consistent offensive production. And then defensively, again, I'd like to see them kind of maybe change how he's deployed defensively so that he's not as, and look, the Rockets have Fred. He's a plus defender. Jalen's turned himself into a plus defender. They've got other options to actually deal with the guards. Let Dillon take some plays off. Let him guard, the opposing wing or whatever. And maybe we just chalk it up to really bad matchup where, you got to deal with Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell for a whole game, which actually credit to the Rockets defense. They held Donovan Mitchell to just 19 points on 7 of 21 shooting. And then Darius Garland, he got 26, took 21 shots to get there, though. So they did a pretty decent job on that duo as a whole, holding them to just 17 of 42 from the floor. But with that, we want your thoughts on this Rockets emotional roller coaster of a win against the Cavaliers. Give us your thoughts on the ending sequence. Walk us through your emotions. Tell us what you thought about the game. Give us your thoughts on everything we discussed in the episode. Madison, let everybody know where they can track you down at.
You can find me on Twitter at MadmanLeaks. Come talk Rockets basketball and NBA draft.
That's going to do it for another edition of Locked On Rockets. As always, thanks so much for checking out the show. Remember, the best way you can help us grow our show is to listen every single day on a podcast platform of your choosing. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Drop the comments while you're there. Subscribe to our daily Locked On Rockets newsletter. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And we look forward to having you back right here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball.